So this morning Blizzard released some patch notes for 7.2.5 and a lot of classes got changed, and one of those classes, or specs should I say, is Discipline Priest. And what they're trying to do is make Discipline Priest more accessible to other players. Like currently Discipline Priest is very difficult to play, very high risk for very high reward, but if you fuck up then your HPS will suck. So what they're trying to do is remove, like not completely remove, but to reduce the amount of mana you need to actually play Discipline Priest and make the playstyle in general just way easier. So first thing they changed is Divine Star cost reduced by 20%. It's not that important because you only use Divine Star in dungeons anyway, and you can drink in between every single pull in dungeons. Then the Halo cost got reduced by 25%. This is nice, but to be fair, you don't really notice the mana cost anyway, since it's like on a 40-second cooldown, but it is some sort of buff to our mana. Plea will now cost 2% of the base mana. It's no longer 0.36%, but it no longer costs additional mana per atonement. So we will be using this ability way more often to actually apply atonement, from what I'm reading here. Power Word Barrier, cost reduced by 37% and radius by 23%. This will definitely help for fights where at the end of the fight you're kind of and you need to place one more barrier as a cooldown, and yeah, this will help with actually having the mana for this barrier. And the radius being increased by 23% is also very important, since usually there's like a few people outside of it, and with our trait where we double heal everyone within our barrier, this is very important. Now Power Word Radiance won't be able to be spammed anymore. It has 2 charges and a 15-second recharge, which is kind of annoying because you used to be able to just get Innervate, put Atonement on everyone with Radiance, but now you will only be able to cast Radiance twice. What they did change though is that Power Word Radiance now applies Atonement to 5 people instead of 3. But the bad thing about this is it's 50% normal duration. So now we will be able to do some burst healing with Power Word Radiance, but it's not gonna be the same as before. Like your druids in the raid, like they don't have to give you Atonement anymore. Now it's probably stronger on other healers actually, since if you want to be able to do the same burst healing on 20 people that you could do before, you would have to cast Plea and Shields on everyone first, on 10 people, then do 2 Power Word Radiances, and then start DPSing if you want to be able to do this. So you will need a lot of planning for this again, just like you did now, but now you won't be able to do it like as easily. Smite damage increased by 11%. This is amazing, since you know a lot of people tell you you shouldn't be using smite, you should just wait, save some mana. But with the changes to mana, like everyone will probably be using smite again, and since the damage is higher, this also means the shield will be higher that smite applies. Smite also now costs only half of the mana, like 0.5% of base mana was 1%. This is amazing, especially since now you will be able to just spam smites. You don't have to wait anymore just to save some mana. And the Penitence effect has been made baseline. If you're wondering what the Penitence is, it's basically where you can cast penance on a friendly target. I have actually never used this, but I've heard from some people that it can actually be really good in dungeons, and since it's going to be baseline, this could be amazing together with castigation. And the bad thing is, the absorb effect from smite is now a talent. So everyone usually takes castigation as a talent, but since the Penitence is baseline and now you will have the talent absorb from smite, this might change. I haven't been able to test it yet, but it's gonna be tricky to know whether smite is gonna be giving you more HPS or castigation is gonna be giving you more HPS. I'm thinking castigation will be better if you want to do, yeah, definitely better if you want to do more DPS. But also on AoE healing, and the absorb from smite will probably be better on single targets. So now overall my thoughts, mana used to be very important for this priest. It still is, but like to a way lesser extent, especially with the changes where you can now spam smite and you can't spam radiance anymore, and etc. A lot of people saying you probably don't need 2 mana trinkets anymore. This is true, but I would still be going for 1 mana trinket, and this is probably Darkmoon Deck Promises. Since smite only costs 0.5% of your mana, which is like 5.5k, if you use Darkmoon Deck Promises with this, your smite will barely cost any mana. I'm actually thinking maybe you would even gain mana while you're spamming smite, which would be amazing. So yeah, in general what Blizzard is doing, it's making the spec way more accessible to play to newer players or players who are less experienced, which is a really good thing because Disc is being underappreciated right now. Like barely anyone is playing it, mainly because of the high skill cap, and where if you fuck up yeah, you can fuck up all of your HPS. But also, Disc doesn't need all the innervates anymore in the raid, and I would still get the buff from the retribution probably, but they don't need to get innervates anymore to do any like good HPS. So basically what this is bringing us is the really good disc players who can do some really crazy numbers with the correct timing of innervates and stuff like this. They will probably be doing less or maybe the same HPS overall, but the players who are less experienced or who are in a guild who don't get innervate, like where they don't get innervates and so on, they will probably be doing more HPS on average. The spec will become way less punishing to play, which will mean way more people will start playing it, and yeah, this means this is good for Blizzard, obviously, because else people are always complaining, yeah, the spec is underplayed, like nobody uses it, and so on. Another thing about these changes is that the belt legendary will become way better in my eyes, because now that you're able to spam smite, you will get the proc from the belt. In case you're wondering, the belt is, let me show you. The belt can give you a reset on penance, which is amazing. But basically with the tier 20 set, let me show. See, the first bolt of light from your penance deals an additional 200% damage, so if your smite resets your penance all the time, you will be casting a lot more penance, obviously, which means a lot more DPS, which means a lot more HPS. Let me check how much penance deals right now with my current gear. My gear is obviously not optimized. Okay, so it hits for 167k. If it crits, it hits for about 350k. If you have buffs and flask and stuff, so 350k. If you get a buff from, like the proc from your Purge the Wicked, then it will do 200%, it will do double the damage, so this means 700k per tick, which is insane. And then, with the 200% damage to the first bolt, it will either do 1.4 million on the first hit, or it will do, I don't know how they're calculating it, it might do even more than this. And because you have this belt, so you have way more penances, but if you look at the 4 set, Power Word Shield has a 25% chance to cause your next penance to be free and have 50% reduced cooldown. This gives you way more penances as well. So, since they're adding, removing the absorb from smite and adding it into the talent, like with all these tier 20 sets, and if you have the belt and so on, castigation will most likely still be king, just because of the amount of penances you will be casting. The mana cost from penance didn't go down though, so it would be good to still use some mana trinket at least, because if you're going to be casting penance all the time, you're going to be using a lot of mana, especially if it keeps resetting and you keep casting penance. But this will also bring our DPS up by a lot, especially with the added damage to smite and so on and so on. Obviously these changes aren't final yet, but not a big fan. Like, they're going in the right direction, but I'm not a big fan because I actually like the challenging playstyle where you can get punished very hard if you fuck it up. But I do agree with Blizzard that you need a lot of support from the other people in your raid, and you need mana trinkets, which not everyone can afford. So, because no more mana trinkets are needed and the buffs from the druids and so on are not really needed anymore, this opens up a lot of possibilities for other players who before didn't want to try Disc because they needed all this stuff, but now they don't need it anymore. So this is the first iteration, but we'll probably see some more changes, like maybe minor adjustments and so on. That's 7.2.5.